Hi there. So I'm thinking about how to plan out all of the writing that you need to do for a whole year, and I promise you it's possible. I'm back in the shed, which is looking glorious. I still have horrible glints from my glasses, but I'm afraid that's life. And I'm going to talk through with you. It's all the same information that was in the written article, but not everyone's good with reading written work, so I thought we'd do a video as well. And this also shows that perhaps not all of your articles on your website have to be typed up. You might want to explore video as well. As you can see, I'm not at all glamorous. I have no makeup on. I have brushed my hair. I'm sat in a shed. Videos don't have to be glamorous, they just have to be you, because you're you and that's all perfect. So we're thinking about when we have either a writing block or we just don't have any ideas of what to write for our website or something similar, and just some ideas of how we can get out of that fog. So I'm going to show you what I do, and hopefully there'll be a few things in there that you can try. Not everything works for everybody, but I'm hoping there'll be something you can try. I'm looking at it out of the corner of my eye because I'm a very colour person. I kind of function well on colour. I'm also a paper and pen person, so I always start with paper, sticky notes. So I have sticky notes. I like these little ones. I have a pen that does lots and lots of different colours, so I can get colour-y, which works for me. And I also like pencils with a rubber on the end. I have a Christmas one currently, and I did have some colouring pencils as well. So I'm going to go through with you how it could work. So I think this works for any subject as well, by the way. I'll try and give you examples from lots of different subjects as we look through it, to give you some ideas, but I really think it can work with any subject. The very first thing you need is some sort of planner, diary, calendar. It doesn't matter what format it's in. It could be electronic if you're a electronic person. I start every year with a printed out for free on the interweb a calendar of the year, and the very first thing I do, I hope you can see, is colour in different colours the seasons. So this is for next year, this is for 2018, and I've literally coloured in the 4 seasons. So I'm in Great Britain, we have spring, summer, autumn, winter. If you're in Alaska, I'm guessing that isn't going to be as irrelevant, but there will be some changes, there will be some things that are seasonal, and it's worth having some sort of description. So I've immediately cut my year in 4, which has cut down quite a lot. And the other thing I've put on, which may or may not be relevant for you, are school holidays, because I have 4 children from 8 years old and down, so I don't work as much in the school holidays. So there are periods of time I need to be aware I have to schedule ahead, or I have to work in the evenings, or I have to figure them out. So they're really important to my planning, so I've put them on here. It might be that if you're working with children, or you work with families, that actually the school holidays are relevant to you as well, and you need to think about, if you're going to do posts about going back to school, you want to start those at the end of July. If you're doing posts about Christmas, then you want to start those earlier. So part of your planning needs to be based on your year and what happens when during that year. So the next thing you want to put on your calendar is going to be any dates that are relevant to you that are going to impact on what you produce. So if you're away for a week, if you have events coming up, if there are times of the year that you're not going to be available or don't want to be working, then you need to put those on your calendar now so that you can plan around them. The next thing you want to do is add on things that are relevant to your subject. So if you write a gardening blog, you are going to want all of the gardening shows, the big nationals and internationals, on your calendar. It's obvious to write an article related to those. You may have awards seasons in your line of work, and they would be relevant. You may have annual events, you may have important dates relevant to your topic. If you're in fashion, then all the fashion show, the major fashion shows will need to be in your calendar because they're going to influence what you do that week. If you work with families, then you're going to need all the school holidays. If you work in beauty, again, there'll be awards seasons, there'll be particular events, there'll be launches, anything like that that's relevant to your subject, you need to put in your calendar, and they are going to spark what you will do that week, an article that you will write that week. It may be that you don't write a whole article yourself. It may be that you just pull together articles from other people about that topic in a collaborative way, which we'll come back to in a minute. So already your calendar should be looking a little bit fuller than perhaps it was, and you have all your subjects and all your personal stuff in. And the next thing on my list, number 5, if you're reading the article, is to try and tap into what's going on within your country and internationally, because that's going to increase your reach, that's going to increase your interest to others in a relatively simple way. And one way for doing that is going to a website called this is a UK one, awarenessdays.com, and there are lots of versions of that around the world, so find the one that's right for your country. And awarenessdays.com lists off by date every awareness day in the UK and internationally. Now, some of them are really important and valuable. They're awareness days for particular conditions, health conditions. They're awareness days for safety issues. They're awareness days for some really important charities, international charities. There's lots of UNESCO days, those sorts of things. There are also some kind of less less meaningful perhaps days. So there's, National Marmite Lovers Day and National Peanut Butter Appreciation Day and those sorts of things, and we shouldn't be snooty about those because they might create a really fun article that's relevant to something that you are working with or something you want to say. So you go through the awareness days. Now, I wouldn't put them directly onto your calendar because there will be thousands of them, and there are also awareness weeks. And so I would just look through and just pencil down on a separate sheet of paper the ones that immediately think, that's my subject, that's my audience, the group of people looking at that and thinking about that are my people. I would do that separately first, and then I would look through again and really pick out the ones that sort of resonate with you, serious and non-serious. You want a nice bit of a mixture. And then put those on the calendar that you really feel, I could write a piece about that, or I could link in some way to that event that week or that day. And that is going to cover a lot of your calendar. And the reason that's so helpful is because those awareness days will have already created their own downloadable, usually, posters or Facebook entries or hashtags that they're going to use on Twitter, and you can then link to that. I always contact them and say, I'm going to write an article about this, or I'm going to be tweeting about that, and I'd really love to include you and to work with you. And that they're awareness days, so they want to raise awareness. So anyone that they can link with, they're going to be absolutely chuffed with that. And that's a really valuable thing for both of you. So they are key because they are how you can spread your article via their audience and vice versa. So some of that audience hopefully will then come back to you because you've said something relevant, interesting, new, whatever. You're wonderful. And so that awareness days is going to be really helpful for you, not just to give you topics to write around, but also to then share that quite widely and successfully in different social media, and they may then link back to you again. So that's number 5. An example of that, I recently did a collaborative thing for World Environmental Day. Totally loving it. It's a really lovely hashtag. I did an article about what our family did to kind of respond to World Environmental Day. Took a picture. It wasn't a massively long piece, but it linked with an international event. I actually also met loads of new people in Instagram, funnily enough, which I wasn't really expecting it to take off on that particular platform. And I got loads of new exchanges going on, and I met loads of really interesting people that I'm hoping will collaborate with in the future. So it's a big event, and I'm in no way a big event myself, but by linking that, by connecting with that, it was something very relevant to what we're doing, and that was a really nice connection to make. And again, when you look at the awareness options, there will definitely be something that is linked to what you're doing. I guarantee it. So the next thing is to think about all of the ideas you've already had, and if you don't have a notebook where you write them down, or notes on your phone where you put them in, or some way of collating the idea you have in the shower and the idea you have sat on the bus or waiting in the traffic light queue, if you don't note those down, that's such a shame, because you're unlikely to remember them if your brain is like mine. And so you need to have a mechanism for collating all those ideas. I have a notebook, and I sometimes use my phone. I'm not very good at using that. And so you need to collate all of those ideas. So as you look through your calendar, it might be there are obvious places to fit in the ideas you've already had. If there's not an obvious place at the moment, then just put them on sticky notes and have them on the side of the calendar, and they will become relevant soon. So all the ideas you've already had, just see if you can pull those into one place and make one sticky note for each of them. It doesn't matter how unformed they are or how random they seem. At the moment you had that thought, it seemed a good one, so it's always worth keeping for the future. So keep those to one side for a moment. The next thing to try is to just do an old-fashioned internet search for your area, or for ask a question, and see what other people are talking about in that niche, in that topic, because that may give you some ideas of what people are interested in, what questions people have that you can then provide answers to, or you can then offer information about that topic. So have just an internet search based on your subject specialism or the thing that your website is about. You can probably try lots of different searches and ask lots of different questions and just see what comes up and see what's going on around that subject, and that will give you quite a few more ideas for what you can write about that's relevant to that topic, that people want to read about. So the questions people are asking online are the things you need to start providing information about, because that's your audience in your particular topic. So if you are in fashion or beauty, which clearly I'm not, you will, go to an internet search engine and type in fashion questions or hot topics fashion, and just see what comes back, and that hopefully will give you a few ideas for some articles that you can write. So we're looking mostly to have a minimum of once a week putting something on a website, and so that's 52 things that you're looking to write about, and you've already divided that up into 4 sections of, not quite 11, but so 4 sections of 5 things, and so suddenly 5 doesn't seem as many per month, and within the ideas we've already had, you're probably over halfway there to your 52 items. If you have more than 52, that's brilliant. That's the sort of minimum I would suggest that you want to be looking at. The other thing that might come up when you look at the sort of internet search and things that are going on and the awareness days is you might start to get a feel for other groups, other individuals, other websites that are working in the same subject area as you. And instead of seeing them as competition and a bad thing, you really should encourage contact with them and see them as a brilliant thing, because they're showing that there's a need in that area. And so you might want to start thinking about collaboration with similar organisations or individuals who are working in your subject topic area. The other place you might come across really interesting collaborations is online. So Facebook groups, I would definitely encourage you to search and join 1, 2, 3, 4 Facebook groups that are in your subject area, because you'll meet lots of people and they will be asking for collaborations, quite possibly, or you could offer one. So I've done a collaboration that I started called Why I Went Green, and I'm in a few Facebook groups and a Twitter group, and I just put it out there. I'd like to write an article. I'm really interested to hear why you went green, and people have got back to me. I've put all that together into an article. I've taken part in some collaborations, so quite a few parenting ones where they said, you know, what was the most surprising thing that happened after you had a baby? Well, most mums can write quite a long list of those, so I put my piece in, and it's part of a larger piece that went on someone else's website, but I can link to it, and of course it links back to me. So that collaboration is really valuable. You might not have to write an article completely, you might just actually have other people's thoughts and feelings, and you just put it all together and top and tail it on your website. So another idea for one of your 52 pieces is a collaborative piece, which means that you have to come up with an idea, but you don't necessarily have to write the entire article. So there we are. I would also really encourage you to think about content being key, and not worry too much about numbers and statistics. They are important, but the passion with which you started your project and the strong things you have about your topic, they're the things that are going to actually attract people to you and what you're doing. And not doing things just for numbers is quite important. Some people get very het up about how many followers they have and how many hits they have and all that kind of thing, but the passion and the quality content is what will last, and I would really focus on that more than worrying overly about hits and numbers, and initially about that sort of thing. There is something called Stumble Upon, which I'm actually not on, but you can post articles there and people sort of find them and like them. But it's not necessarily real engagement. It doesn't mean they've actually read it or have any interest in it. It's a bit of a sort of, it's not fake, but it's not really pure interest in your particular site. And so those people will come and go, and that's lovely. But what you're really after is a more meaningful relationship with people that will hopefully come back and be interested in what you have to say. Part of that is acknowledging that you're an expert in some way. I didn't really feel an expert in anything until I met someone who was amazed that I had 4 children. Now, I'm a bit amazed I have 4 children, to be honest. But she said, but you must know everything to do with children, and I don't at all. But for her, I knew much more than her, and the way I'd handled things was interesting to her because they were things that she hadn't thought of. So even if you're not an expert in the sort of traditional sense, you're an expert in what you do and how you do it. And so you will have things to share, and it's really important that you feel that, because that will encourage you to write down how you do things, or why you do things, or why things are important to you. Quite often in that 52 you might want to think about when you update your website, and we have a Thursday thought at the Frugal Family that allows me to plan that something has to happen on a Thursday, So that helps me with scheduling. We do more than that. So I try to do a Frugal You, which is the self-care program, sort of free and reasonable ways to look after ourselves as parents and as adults. And I try to update that perhaps once a week or once every other week, not on a Thursday, because Thursdays are for Thursday thoughts. And then if I guest post for other people, obviously I don't know when they might put that on their website, and I would then link back to it and sort of share it and that kind of thing. So that happens ad hoc. I don't always know when that might be. But guest posting is another really good idea. It may be that you don't feel you can write enough to offer that to others, but it might be something that you can ask for if you really are feeling stuck about what to put on your website. You might ask one of the people you've met in a group or through a Twitter hour or in real life. You might ask them if they would do a guest post for you. You could give them a particular topic, or you could say, this is the website, this is what we're about, and they might offer an idea. I do this a lot. I love guest posting because it allows me to write about things that are connected to what I do, but aren't things I would necessarily put directly on the site. It also opens your work up to a much larger audience because it's on someone else's site linking back. So you might invite people to come and guest post for you if you're really stumped for an idea, or just because it's nice actually to have different people come and add things to your website. Okay. If you don't have 52 yet, then you really haven't tried hard enough. If you do have 52, or you don't have 52 but you just can't face the idea of writing that much is really bugging you, then think about non-written content. And the most obvious, the fashion moment now, is video. So could you do a Facebook Live instead of an article, written article? Could you post a video like this, which is just me in my shed talking, nothing fancy? Could you host a video someone else has made and put that on, obviously with their permission? There's loads out there that's very visual. Could you find something on YouTube? Do you have a YouTube channel? We have one, but we don't use it as effectively as we should. But it may be that you don't have written content and that you go more for video, and that might be something that you want to explore if you're feeling if you're not feeling the writing vibe. Okay, you should have enough there, but I have more if you really don't feel that that has worked out well for you. I have more. So the next idea would be to just reuse old posts. There's always something you can update. You can add a new photo, you can add a new link, you can review something that happened previously. Did it happen the same way this year? All of your old posts are there available for you to update and repost. You can review something that you already own that's relevant to your subject. If you're a gardener, go outside and review your lawnmower, the seeds you just planted, and anything that you can find, hand cream. If you are a beauty person, you, I'm sure, will have buckets of stuff you could review. If you are a fashion person, again, you're bound to have lots of things. Put together 4 items that are your favourites, and that's an idea for a wardrobe piece. If you work in marketing, then review an advert you saw on the bus, whether it was any good or not, what good points you took from it and what bad points you wouldn't do yourself. If you're a parent, then you just look at your children and they will do something that you can write about in the next 10 minutes, I promise you. If you are I'm trying to think of lots of different contexts in which this would work. If you're a wine merchant, then go and review the bottle that you've got on your shelf. Go and tell people what temperature their wine should be at. Go and look at some glasses and say which glasses you need for which wine. There will be something in your home or office or shed that you can review, and that's just a piece that you can write immediately. Pros, cons, stockists, all that kind of stuff is an easy one to do. Another really easy one to do if you're struggling is just to put on the news, go to the internet, listen to the radio, and be topical. Something will have happened today in the news, because they find news even if nothing very interesting is happening. I personally would always look for positive news articles. That's how I prefer to live. But be topical. Talk about something that's happening in the world right now. You can promote something, so if there's something brilliant happening in your area, then you can talk about that. There might be an event coming up, there might be just something on the news that you've overheard, something you've read in the newspaper that sparked your interest, and you can write about that. So you can be topical, and there's always, as I say, just sit for 10-15 minutes, read the paper, or listen to the radio or television, and a news article will come up, and you can respond to that. That's another easy one. Another really easy one is to use a quote. There are loads of websites that have beautiful quotes. You can open a book and find a quote. You can look on your fridge magnets, there's bound to be a quote there, or on an inspirational poster. It doesn't have to be actually a positive quote. Always make sure you credit who said it and where you found that information. Make it beautiful, add some photographs of your own, or go to a site that allows you to make images, sort of poster type images. Just put a quote up. Don't even have to say any more than that, if that's what you want to do. Sometimes you can just have visual pieces, so nothing written at all. One of your 52 might just be a beautiful picture, and ask for how does that make you feel, or I thought I'd share this because it's beautiful, or a quote, something like that. The other idea is actually to ask people what they would like you to have on your website. If you're really struggling, then that implies that it's not flowing from you, and so maybe you have just hit a bit of a wall about your subject or topic, and you want to go to people and say, what would you like me to write about? What interests you about this? What are the hot topics? You can do a questionnaire that you might email out to your group. You could do a poll, so Twitter does polls, Facebook groups do polls, Outlook does polls. You could just sort of ask people, what shall I do next week? Shall I do X, Y or Z? And see how they respond, and that could inform you about what are the issues that people want you to touch on. I'm hoping that that is enough. Goodness me, if you can't get 52 ideas out of that, then you're really not passionate enough to be following that topic area. I'm not saying it's not hard work, because it blooming well is, but you should be able to schedule some of that. You should be able to write some of that ahead of the game and schedule it in. You should, if the moment comes to you and you just feel the need to write it, and you can because of time and life, just get it in, just type it in, write it down, video you talking about it, just get that thought down, and then it will come. The phone's going. Should have turned it off. And so you can then immediately come back to that and schedule it in. The other place I look for are in local magazines and things, to see what's coming up in the next month or so. And again, it might be that I could visit that and then write about it. It might be that I could just promote something, not in a paid capacity. I could just say, wow, this really interesting thing's happening in my local area, and that again might spark something. So there's always things that you can write about that are going on in your niche, in your area, or just in your life. You will sometimes need to be a bit broader. So when you get to the end, you will end up with a version of this. So I print out the month. I have ideas at the top, and I have ideas on my sticky notes, and then slowly I put them into the calendar. Now what's quite interesting is that I, through July, did a daily every single day I did a new tip about staying sane in the summer for the holidays. Now, I started that in a very excitable way, and then realised, oh my goodness, do I actually have enough ideas to get me through this? And I did panic a bit halfway through, but amazingly I did, and I didn't find it particularly difficult. I found it difficult to physically do it every day, given that my life's quite full, but I didn't run out of ideas. So July of this year was full. I did an idea every single day. Won't doing that again for a little while. But August, I just did my Thursday thoughts in August. That's all I did. I planned those out. I had 5 Thursday thoughts. That was all I did. That was fine, because in August I had 4 kids home, school holidays. We were out every day. I used a different medium, so the website was fairly quiet in August, just the 5 Thursday thoughts. But Instagram, I did a daily picture of what we'd got up to. Much less work for me, because it was just the picture and a little bit about where we'd been or what we did, and I did how much we'd spent every day, because that was relevant, that I could manage through the holiday. So I was still active, and I could put on the website, if you want to follow us every day and see what we're doing, then you can go to our Instagram account. But I didn't post every day for August. That would have been completely impossible for me. But I quite like the connection of posting every day, but I didn't feel, I'm trying to find it, I didn't feel I could necessarily do that consistently. So the worked really well for July, didn't try in August. But then I came to September, and we have a new page on the website for September called The Frugal You, and we're thinking about self-care. So I decided to do self-care September, and not to just do my own thoughts, because I'm going to use the page to write my own thoughts about how to look after ourselves as adults. I've worked in mental health recovery for 15 years, lecturing, and so I feel I have a lot to say about that, but I wanted other people's ideas. And so for Self-Care September, I have done another every day. We're going to have a self-care tip, and I've put it out there. I've reached out to all my Twitter followers, all my Instagram group, all the groups I'm in on Facebook, and I've just said to them, guys, what would your top tip be? And I've had lovely responses from a real range of people. I've got food ideas, health ideas, all sorts of people who are mental health advocates, who are physical health advocates, who might have a product that they sell that they really feel strongly about, other mums, other parents, all sorts of people have come back and said, you know what, I should do more, or what I really enjoy when I do it. And so September is building up to be a tip every day, and then there are only 4 Thursdays in September for my Thursday thought, and that will be an opportunity for me to focus in just 4 times this month on what I'm going to be saying. I have my ideas at the top again, so these will get in, and I'm allowing other people then to kind of, I'm fitting it around. And if I do find a day where I haven't got something from someone else, then I've got my little ideas of tips, things that I do or would like to do for Self-Care September. So there's always ways that you can tweak what you'd planned. I hadn't planned to do that. I had planned the page to happen in September, but I hadn't really figured out how I was going to do it. So that just came to me in the moment, and I've run with it, and we'll see what happens. I think I'm going to be fine. I think there'll be enough for September. So your original calendar should be quite full now. You may not have written on it. You'll notice I don't write on mine. This is next year, so I've coloured it in, but I haven't written on it because I will be using my little ones for my ideas. I'll be putting them on the Thursdays, and then I'll be doing the additionals. So if I have more than 52 ideas, and the reason I like sticky notes is because sometimes, just hit my wind chime, sometimes your ideas will start to pull together naturally. So you'll have all your ideas, and suddenly you'll notice that 5 of them are all about a similar theme, and so it would make sense perhaps to collate those into one particular month and have a topic for the month. You might go through and notice that of all your ideas, 3 of them are reviews, and so you might want to space those out. So you have 1 review each season maybe, of something that's relevant. So until you've got all those ideas together, you don't want to put them in stone in your calendar, because there'll be a flow to them that you will only notice when you've got all of them. And then you can start to schedule them through the year, to make sure that there's a nice, a logical way in which you're tackling different aspects of your topic. There's no point me doing a back to school planner for April, because it's just not relevant, and it will get lost, and then we'll come to going back to school actually, for most people, end of August, September, and no one will find it, and I'll have forgotten where it is. And you have to schedule in what you're doing so it has some sort of sense, for your topic or your subject area. So I do it all on sticky notes, and then I can play with them and move them around. I do that for the year on that year planner, and then I come back to my monthly one, to be a bit more detailed, and to also write down those contacts and collaborations and people that are putting things on, so that I don't lose that connection. You can do all of that electronically. I'm not very good with electronic stuff. I find my brain works best when I physically write things down. I remember them better. But all of that you could do on a spreadsheet, on an online calendar, Outlook. Any of those things are going to give you those facilities to colour code and have to-do lists and everything. I do sometimes put things onto an electronic system, but I always come back to pen and paper, because that's just who I am. I've decided to embrace it. I hope that that's useful. I hope that that's given you some ideas for how to plan your work, how to plan your writing. Remember, it doesn't all have to be written, and remember that you're supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something you enjoy and feel passionate about. And if you're not feeling it, then take a break and think about what you do feel passionate about and write about that. There has to be a bit of a balancing act, because if this becomes stressful and a chore, then that will come across in your writing. So those are my ideas. There's a written article which is exactly the same as this video. There's nothing different in either one, but different people like different things, and I wanted to have a play with video. I hope that's been really useful. Thank you, and if you're interested in what we're doing at the Frugal Family, then stick around, and we have a Thursday Thought, and we have loads of new things coming all the time. It's been great to chat with you. Bye bye.